really it's cost him nothing because he's already created it, but then that all of a sudden makes him feel so much cheaper or so much better value than anybody he's competing against. So one of the things I wanted to talk about today, and that's a nice lead on, is how can you add to your product range, how can you add to your offers, and and create like an offer stack, i.e. having lots of products, more than one products in different price points for your business. And I know this is something I've been guilty of myself in the past, where we automatically think, my product is my product is doing hair extensions, and then you kind of limit yourself to that, and therefore anyone who could come to you for anything other than hair extensions, or anything at a price lower than what you're selling for, or at a price higher, is effectively you're unable to serve them, and you are closing yourself to a few things. You're closing yourself to increasing your turnover by being available to a larger market. You are closing yourself to the ability to bring new customers in who can't necessarily afford your existing product at the moment. Because again, I don't know what your hair extensions cost. I'm just using it as an example, but just let's say they were £300 for some hair extensions. If you're a customer that doesn't need hair extensions or can't afford hair extensions, then effectively you never get the chance to bring them into your circle and start letting them see your social media, letting them see your brand, build your personality, build from your personality, etc. So so that door is closed to them. And if you don't have higher value products, and higher value products are normally higher margin products. There's certainly a higher cash margin product, even if they're not a higher percentage margin product. You are limiting your ability to earn. And this thought process came around because for two reasons. One, it's something I've been working on over the past couple of weeks of lockdown for my businesses. And a friend of mine who has popped up on these lives a couple of times, a guy called Sav, a magician who you'll have heard me give a shout out to a few times. He came to me the other day to ask some questions about his business, and it got me on to talking to him about his offer stack. So for example, when I first started in the finance business, my original product, my initial product, was providing stock finance for second-hand car dealers. So effectively, my only product was a stocking loan to a second-hand car dealer who wanted to buy and sell cars. That was a nice business in and of itself, but it was obviously very limiting to the growth of our business. And we could only offer a certain type of business at a certain price. So we would get, we'd receive lots of leads, lots of inbound telephone calls of people looking for finance, but we were unable to serve them, and we were therefore unable to get them in our sales funnel, get them into our ecosystem, to market to them, to potentially trade with them in the future. So then, we naturally evolved into cash flow loans for smaller businesses, bridging loans for larger businesses, and listen, and don't get me wrong, this was not me, let's say, being clever at the time. This was almost a natural process of growth. But now I understand the concept here. I appreciate very much it's something that can be sat down and thought about and brainstormed, and ideally done a lot earlier in the business, then we don't miss the opportunities to collect leads, customer leads, as time goes on. So for example, we used to get a lot of inbound leads where it was people wanting startup finance. So initially we didn't do startup finance, then we added startup finance to our range of products. But then invariably, the quality of the leads, they were never good enough to qualify for the kind of finance that we were offering. They were too small a business, they wanted too small a loan that wasn't economically viable for us, or the quality of the security wasn't right. So at that point, there was nothing we could do with this customer. We couldn't sell them anything, therefore we couldn't make any money. It had cost us money to acquire that lead. However you want to skin it, we'd paid for pay-per-click on Google, or I'd put time into marketing like this, or an affiliate had given us a lead. So however you skin it, that lead had cost us money, and it was effectively dead. And that's then when I started to create content like this. So if someone was a startup business, just because we couldn't help them at that time didn't mean we wanted to not be able to build a relationship with them. So then, so I wrote a book. I wrote a book about how to raise finance for your business. A book that I could potentially sell, or if not sell, I could certainly give away to these people. I started to create a lot of my YouTube videos and a lot of my content. Giving out advice. Teaching people how to use creative thinking to find other methods to finance their business. Because just because I couldn't help them there and then, I may be able to help them at some point in the future, and therefore, if I can help them along their journey, but obviously I need to help them along that journey in an economically viable way for me. I.e., I can't be investing my time one-on-one to help them with this stuff, because obviously I've only got so many hours in the day, and that's not a scalable proposition. But if I've written a book, if I've created videos, if I've got a massive content out there that these people can watch and listen to, and hopefully then make their businesses better, one day they would have a business big enough to then be able to come back to me and ask for finance, and at that point I could make money. Another great example of that is my friend Tim Kitchen, who you've seen on some of my posts lately, who did a webinar the other day about how to set your business up to be working remotely. And his average customer, I think his average customer spends between £2,000 and £10,000 a month with him on pay-per-click and SEO and digital marketing. And I think from memory, like their minimum entry-level customer is something like £1,500. Don't quote me on that. I'm just using this for example's sake. But he would get a lot of leads in who are too small a business. Steve the plumber, who currently works on his own and can't therefore possibly afford Tim's service at £1,500. So what has he done? He's created cheaper entry-level products, basically like the do-it-yourself product of, an online university for £50 a month, where Steve the plumber can go into that university and learn how to do a lot of the things himself, to do his own SEO, to do his own pay-per-click, to make his own website better, and therefore effectively hopefully grow to a size one day that would be big enough to be a viable customer for Tim to be able to sell to. And as I said, I'm not going to keep giving stories and examples. I'm sure you get the picture of what I'm talking about, and all of you can apply this to your business. I will give you one more example, which was when I was talking to Sav the magician. His product effectively he has one single product, which was him performing at somebody as an entertainer at a magic show for somebody. And let's just call it £1,000 for the sake of this conversation. Let's say he charges £1,000 to provide a 2-hour magic show. So obviously the problem with him then is he's got so much to offer in the magical sense, but unless you are somebody having a wedding, somebody having a birthday party, someone putting on a corporate event, and somebody who has got £1,000 to spend, he's of no use to you. So what we started to talk about is what other products he can create both below the £1,000 bracket and above the £1,000 bracket to be able to offer his services to a wider audience and then ultimately make himself more valuable. Now, one thing we immediately started to talk about was teaching magic, giving education. And obviously online courses, anything like that now is fantastically topical, but this concept existed prior and will continue to exist long into the future. So we talked about the possibility of maybe being able to create an online course that he could sell to people who wanted to have magic lessons, because he sells his time giving a one-on-one magic lesson, or he could do it over Skype. But again, to maintain the fact that he's at £500 an hour, let's say, if you haven't got that £500 to spend, then he's of no use to you. But if he pre-records some of his teachings, he could put it on an online portal, and that could be whatever it could be: £10 a month, £50 a month, £100 a month, whatever he can get away with. But then here, and you've done two things then. One is you've got a second product, so you can open yourself to a whole new market of people, and that can potentially make him money in itself. He gets the subscriptions, and that's a profitable avenue in itself. Secondly, what it does is effectively bring him a whole load of new customers, who some of those ultimately may have the money at either now or in the future to be able to spend more with him, and then he can move them up the ladder. But what's also starts to get really interesting is when he offers himself out and he's in a price war with other people, he can start to layer on some of these other services almost as freebies and make his product sound so much more valuable. So one of the things we were talking about the other day was he is offering a 20-person magic lesson or something online to a corporate business. And somebody else is offering to do that as well, and he was saying how much should he charge? And obviously the problem is if someone charges 900, then he has to charge 850. They charge 800, and it's a race to the bottom. But if he has these other products in his product mix, then, for example, the online magic lessons, once he's created it, it's effectively free. So what he could, let's just say for example, he charges £99 for lifetime access to that. What he could then do is when he's offering his £1,000 2-hour online magic lesson to these 20 people, he could say that everybody who comes to the lesson gets free access for life to his course, which is £99, and there's 20, and therefore he's effectively given away £2,000 worth of value. Really, it's cost him nothing because he's already created it, but then that all of a sudden makes him feel so much cheaper or so much better value than anybody he's competing against.